I must think on this further.
2001 was still the high watermark in visual effects to that point. Remember, Star Wars had not come out.
It was a huge film for science fiction people. I had really wanted to work with front screen projection after seeing that.
What the two films had in common was a very, very pared down approach to the visual effects. There are no blue screen shots in 2001, for example, because Kubrick felt that the technology at the time wasn't ready. But Dan O'Bannon, who had done an intensive study of visual effects and was also a big fan of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and Dan supervised the visual effects on Dark Star overall and shot a lot of the animation stand stuff. You know, we have to remember that this was made in the very, very earliest days of motion control, and there was no motion control available for Dark Star. All the actual shots of spaceships in motion were shot on dollies, and most of the shots of spaceship in motion were shot with flat artwork on animation stands with transparencies of the spaceship model backlit on an animation stand. So I thought that the 2001 system of using what are in effect blob mats to black out the stars that would conflict with the spaceship would be very appropriate, and it turned out to be so, especially since the star fields were very, very sparse.
We didn't have any way to put any interactive light inside this bomb model. Greg had done a beautiful job sculpting it, and all of the detail and edges and so on was just lovely. But it was just a box, and John Carpenter wanted to be able to have something that the bomb would do to respond to voice commands.
Sergeant Pinback calling bomb number 19. Do you read me, bomb?
Bomb number 19 to Sergeant Pinback. I read you. Continue.
So I came up with taking strips of Scotch-Lite and gluing them in to a few places, and then we would put a half-silvered mirror in front of the camera, grudgingly, because that would lose me one more f-stop, but had a red light that would beam down into the mirror and actually flash red just a tiniest little bit toward the bomb. And of course the Scotch-Lite would pick it up and throw it back 1,000 times. So whenever we wanted the bomb to talk, we would just snap this red light off and on, and it would flash.
Look at the size of the bomb that comes out. Bomb number 20. Can you do math? Can you extrapolate how much space it would take to contain 20 of those things?
Hyperdrive sequence begun. Hit it, Pinback. Brace for force fields.
The hyperdrive shot in Dark Star employed the streak camera technique that had been, I believe, pioneered by John Whitney Sr. in his art films. And in that technique, the shutter is left open while the camera moves through a dolly shot, for example. Whitney Sr. did these primarily as dolly shots on artwork on an animation stand, which is exactly how the streak photography on Dark Star was done. And so when we were thinking of what the hyperdrive effect would look like, I really can't remember whose suggestion it was, but that it should be a variety of streak photography.
When we come out of hyperdrive, it just goes boop, and just stops. If you know anything about physics, there'd be this ball of protoplasm that used to be four guys somewhere up in the nose, you know, this gelatinous substance.
The hyperdrive effect from Dark Star is virtually quoted in Star Wars.
I would guarantee that George Lucas saw Dark Star well before he wrote Star Wars. I think that's inescapable. Because being a USC alumni, et cetera, I think he would be curious. I think he would have seen it.
He did such things in his student version of THX. He used actual video monitors and put stuff on them. When we came to do Dark Star, I'd been impressed by that. So I said, let's us do some displays. We did them in a different manner, using traditional animation table.
The computer stuff At that time, there was one computer on the campus at USC, and it was in a closet somewhere in the architecture building. I don't know where it was, but they had to take everything over there and shoot the one computer screen that existed at the time at USC in a closet.
Then Lucas sees that, hires me to do the computer screens on Star Wars. That was that little two-step.